Okay, we're at third edition of the I Hate Insurance podcast at SHOT Show with real guys, not influencers, real guys. Have to live like me. You know, we're not boring, but we don't have influencer titles, right? So take it away.
Yeah, I'm Scott Volquartsen. I'm a co-owner of Volquartsen Firearms. We specialize in all things rimfire. So primarily 22s, 22 mags, 17 HMRs. My brother and I are second generation business owners. My dad started it about 50 years ago. And we've really built a niche around the rimfires, and specifically that's all we do. A lot of guys will ask, when are we going to get into something bigger? When are we going to branch out? But the more we dive into the rimfire side of things, the more we realize how much is left. So it's really a case of like knowing what we're good at, and we stay in that lane.
All right. Well, how many of your weapons are out there? Do you know how many?
I don't know that offhand. Probably right now we build a lot of aftermarket parts for other firearms, but then on the firearm side we probably build 12 to 15,000 a year.
Yeah, so 50 years, that's a lot of guns. Good for you.
Thank you.
That's cool.
And it's been fun growing the company, and
you and your brother get along apparently.
Yeah, we have different roles, which helps.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, family businesses should be good, but sometimes they get complicated.
They have their challenges, but for the most part, we get along. And biggest thing we've learned in that side is there's certain hills that I'm not willing to die on, and he'll do the same. So if it's something super important or that he feels really strongly about, I'll back off, and vice versa. If I have something that I'm not going to back down on, he'll realize it and be like, okay,
right,
you get your way this time.
Compromise like they're supposed to do in Washington, but they don't.
Hopefully we do it better than they do.
Yeah, you do, I guarantee it. So, well, thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me.
Tell us what you got going on new.
Yes,
I see
sir.
you got your flashlight with you.
Yes, my XINSURANCE flashlight. Never leave home without it. Yeah.
Right.
I have a 20-acre private facility outside of Orlando, Florida, and we specialize in a custom safety learning experience for families. And we have been doing this now coming up on 13 years, and just want to help families know that there's another level of safety learning, mindset training, how to see potential bad things coming and avoid it altogether. And there's a lot of challenges in our industry because no one really does what we do.
Well, I have a personal story. I normally have one, but we were at the races, flew up to your place and landed with Dale, who's an ex-police officer, and I don't remember who else was with us. There were two. Jeff, my boat captain, and
Yep.
fourth one. And, you get there, and it's a really cool facility, and then you meet Philip, and, I'm sitting there thinking, well, this is kind of weird, no guns, flashlight, And by the end of it, we were all totally amazed, totally impressed that, it's about strategy and planning ahead, just like I talk about with insurance, right? It's
Right.
just situational awareness. And, I think the genius thing about it is, like you're doing with the teachers in Florida, is, getting them comfortable with thinking about how to defend themselves or how to react in a bad situation. And you're doing it with a piece of equipment that can hurt somebody, but it's not scary to the operator, right? And even if they don't have their flashlight with them, they're going to be more situationally aware walking out to cars and walking into places. And so, that's why I think, after you experience it, it's like, it's a no-brainer. It's like, no, this works. This is what everybody should do. If you don't want to fire a firearm, fine, but at least have a strategy and a plan. And I think it is our obligation as dads and uncles and whatever to make sure that everybody at least is exposed to it. So I don't know, that was probably 2.5 years ago, maybe not even that long, but fantastic person and operation, and we're you just were at my office, and he trained one of the boat racers from Australia and his gal and a couple other people we had there at the house. So
Everyone wants safety. Everyone wants safety. And we like to focus with and without a firearm. Mindset training, learning how to think more critically while under stress, and helps you react faster with purpose-based learning with everything that you can carry on an airplane in a gun-free zone. And it's something that we want to get that around the country, and that's what's going to help make schools safer and people safer, is a better introduction to safety and more mindset training. And it's just something that we've been doing R&D now for the last 12 years, and we have something really special. So we really want to help all families and fathers, and
you're more than R&D. You're actually doing it.
Well, one of these days, it's a small world, because I've known Scott now for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And we'll eventually get him down there too.
So how did you guys meet? The SHOT Show, or?
Through a mutual friend at SHOT Show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's all about meeting the right people, and we're like the playground again. Pick the right partners, and it's a lot better than picking the wrong partners. So.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very happy that it's something that's been a big concern of mine for years, is that we had general liability insurance, and then I had you have jiu-jitsu,
Range.
or I call martial arts insurance, but scenario training, that gray area, because what we do is concept-based learning. So I show you a concept, and you're going to apply it differently than Scott, Scott's family members. And that gray area of, it's not firearms training and it's not empty hand training, and that's the area where if something were to happen, there's nothing that exists. So we sought you out.
See, if you were just a range, then everybody would write you, right?
Yes.
And then as you become more expert, or more of a leader in the industry, you start to look at things, and they're not just going to stay like a McDonald's store, right, and run it their way. You're going to expand. And insurance doesn't do that well. They like, printing the same policy over and over again. And if you fall outside of it, they take care of that with exclusions, which leaves you in gray areas. And it's just like, you really at times in trouble want to know, just like when you were a kid on the playground, you're getting in a fight with the other neighborhood kids, you turn around, who's there and who's running away. And that's really, it's a big playground. Whether you're a teacher in school, you got to know who's with you and what you're going to do. And, in the litigation system we live in with businesses, the plan of insurance companies is to only write people who don't have claims. So they're not really ever prepared for the claim or the real battle. And, again, when you get into the real battle, war included, you got to spend money. If you're cheap and you ain't going to spend money, you're going to compromise, and you're going to lose or end up in a different position. So, insurers, that's my biggest pet peeve now, is everything they do is they outsource is an attempt to save money. You're not hiring the best lawyer, you're negotiating a cheaper rate. And I always look at it like, well, when I was arrested in Chicago, I didn't want a cheap rate. I wanted the best lawyer. I wanted to kick their ass. And that is, if you get sued wrongfully, or Philip gets sued, that's what you want, is somebody that's going to be there no matter what. And even, if the claim is resolved, the real test is, do they keep insuring you? Or do they cancel you because what could happen does happen? And, that's just big, stupid business like banks.
As a firearm manufacturer, we have such a limited pool of people that will even consider insuring us anyway. But you're right, as soon as you have a claim, all of a sudden you have to look elsewhere for insurance because they want to get rid of you right away.
Right.
As an instructor, I traveled the country for many years and trained with a lot of people, and I can tell you that most people that do scenario training are not insured. Right. They're not insured. They just do it on the side, and they don't realize that anyone that hires a guest instructor to come in and do scenario training, they're as you know, they'll go after the dirt. They're not going after the instructor.
Right,
They're going after the building, the dirt that they're
The
standing
assets,
on.
right,
So
yeah.
anyone that doesn't have proper coverage is just rolling the dice, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, so,
Scott, as a firearms manufacturer, you spoke to, the limited pool that you have. What's some of your primary concerns that you have as a firearms manufacturer, outside of the challenges of just having few options? What are some of the main concerns that keep you up at night?
One of them is just simply being dropped for absolutely no reason other than they've had a change in
appetite,
appetite and
That's
something
what
else maybe
insurance
happened
guys
in the
call it.
industry.
right?
So that's a primary concern. And then the other one is we have people that are writing our insurance that don't fully understand how the firearms industry even works.
Right.
And you can tell by a lot of times the applications or the questions that you fill out they're not done by gun people.
Right.
They're done trying to, like you said earlier, weed out and not have to insure certain companies.
Right. Well, no, and again, the applications are like our rafting company. We developed that with the rafting guides and the supplements, and I mean that's like an interaction you have with the industry, so that you're actually using the experts within the industry. We insure all the helicopter ski guides. When we have avalanches, I got the best avalanche experts in the world, right? And they can be there in 30 seconds. And we know what happened, right, within days. And that's the key is, being proactive in everything in life, right? If you're reactive, you're not any good. And so when you have partnerships like people have with insurance companies where, it's kind of on a string hanging, that's why people don't report stuff. It's like, oh, I report that, they're going to cancel me. In Florida, if you call your agent and try and report like a small claim, they'll tell you don't report it. Why not? They'll cancel you. Well, that's a great sales point. You didn't tell me that when you sold me the policy that, if you make a claim. So my new joke now is, okay, I got your quote. That's your best quote, right? Because I'm a really good insured. Yeah. But so you assume I won't have a claim, right? Right. So can you call him back and ask him if there's a price where I can have a claim and you won't cancel me or change it? Because I'm not sure I really want the one you're giving me.
There's a lot of things going on right now in Florida that are just everyone's getting a big surprise as their policies renew, and they've never had a claim, and they don't live near the coast. So
Well,
it's
that's been my commitment to everybody is, rafting, whatever, and, you never have a claim, but what insurance people are famous for is, you don't have a claim, but Bob had a claim. So we got to increase your rate, or we've lost our appetite for this, and it's like, well, so you didn't know this going in? We are going to have claims, and as an industry, the good people, we need to manage those claims kind of with the same approach and the same tactic. And insurance companies, and again, Remington, to me is like Florida. It's like you don't have to be a genius to see that this isn't working, right? Every time storms come, they all go broke, and it's legislative, and they do all their stuff, and then they come out with the same thing again. There's a new company called Slide down there. They took 54,000 policies out of Citizens, and they say they're cherry picking. Well, how do you cherry pick millions and millions of policies? I'm sure they have some strategy, but they're taking it at Citizens rate. They don't get to requote it. They don't get to do anything. They're just like digesting it. And to me, it's like handing you an exploding turd. Right? It's not gonna happen. It's gonna not work when it's needed. And it's like a Porsche, buying a Porsche, and you sit in your driveway, and I'm like, Philip, you look really good in your Porsche. Why don't you ever drive it? And it's like, I didn't get an engine. I just got the car. That's what insurance is to me. Is it's a piece of paper. Everybody thinks they have the best, and people. Most of them drunk at bars at conventions, and I'm not a big talker either unless you get me going. And they'll say, what do? And I'll say, I run an insurance company. And they're like, yeah, I'm with AIG. And I'm like, yeah, they're the best. I'm like, yeah, okay. They were bankrupt in '08, and we bailed them out, so they're not the best. But, and they'll get mad at me and say, there's no way you can be better than, they think big is better. And a lot of people are impressed with big. And what I've learned in life is the biggest is rarely the best, right? And if somebody's beating them, they'll try and buy them. But what does that do? In most cases, they're now buying the talent who was motivated by owning their own business and succeeding. Now they're working for some company that tells them what to do, and they demoralize them. They basically drive them out of the business. Eventually, they go start their own gun range again because they sold out. In the insurance business, it happens all the time. They go buy the biggest agencies, trying to become the biggest. And their plan is to roll it and sell it in 3 to 5 years, because that's the investment banker model, right? You go out and you buy all the gun people, or you go out and buy all the trash trucks, or you go out and then within 3 to 5 years you sell it. And in most cases, you can take those smaller businesses and you can paint the trucks and you can put the cameras in it and you can now be this big entity and you can sell it for more. But the real asset was the people who built that business, like your dad and your brother and you. And you, Philip, they demoralize you and take all of your joy in life out of it, and it just ruins, most businesses.
You're custom insurance, and we're custom training. And I love it when Scott talks about the fact that his company is just exploring all the stuff they still have to learn from 22. And that's the same thing with us. Our lane is mindset training with a flashlight, and there's a lot of people out there that try to do too much. And so our lane is really learning each individual that visits, and then learning them, and then throttling to their skill set.
So how many people do you train with the flashlight that are uncomfortable with guns, and then they're comfortable?
Growing every day. Growing. This is a tremendous learning bridge. That is something that, people realize that what's more likely to happen is nothing. But everyone has been approached in a transitional space by a stranger.
Right.
And so when they get good at being able to see something and avoid it and use their voice, then they're in distance breaks down. They say, I'd really like to have something more.
Right.
What is that more? It could be pepper spray. It could be other things. And depending on their age and their physicality, a firearm is a tremendous asset. That's something that's everyone should know.
So, I saw this. It was on Hannity or something. It's some type of gun. I can't remember, but it shoots the tear gas at people up to 50 yards away. It's called the blank or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies out there that focus on non-lethal things, and my concern with that is that you're going to have something like that, and then you're going to pull out something that looks like a firearm.
Oh, and they'll shoot you.
And then it's going to escalate because they're not going to know whether it's real or not. And you have something that's non-lethal, and it's going to escalate force. So to me, unless it's a law enforcement application or a security application and they have another tool, I would not only have that. It's a tremendous liability.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot in scenario. You see that a lot in scenario training. How quickly, when you could de-escalate, when you could leave, and you don't, and a firearm comes out, how quickly everything escalates.
Changes, right?
Yeah. And so that's our speciality, is practicing for something you never want to fail at.
Right. Huh. Well, that's interesting. I'd never thought of that.
Yeah.
We ought to tell Sean Hannity or whoever that that's not as great a product as he's making it out to be. Because it does escalate immediately, right?
Correct.
They have a gun that you haven't seen it yet, and you pull that thing out.
Correct.
Could be over.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna look like a firearm,
Well,
and you're going to be playing with, pepper balls.
upscale, right.
Someone else is gonna have something else. It just comes down to
That's
education.
why you do scenario training, so you know that stuff.
It all comes down to education.
Yeah.
Scott's company is really good. You'll find that when you learn a lot about what makes them special. So when I got into it, and I wanted to have some 22 rimfire at our location, there was no other name but Volquartsen. So that was something that we reached out, and it's just quality, and you can tell, by touching it, and that's the whole purpose of why we partner and why we have some of his firearms at our places. So when people come to learn about scenario training, they can also try, and with their valuable time, try all different types of other things.
Right.
So yeah, just
Scott,
a lot of
I've got
fun.
a question for you. You are certainly known as the top tier in rimfire. Everyone that I've talked to is like, it's obviously something that had became a passion project, turned into a little business, it's turned into a bigger business that's, and I know that you haven't lost that passion, but how have you looked at risk? How have you looked at and changed the business mindset from taking something that you were just passionate about and then turning it into, this tremendous growth over the last several years? So I guess the question in that is how do you look at risk differently now when it comes to insurance and your business and product liability and all the other things that come with the growth?
I think one of the first things that comes to mind with that is as we've grown, we've grown the number of employees. We're up to like 26 or 28 employees. From one side of it, you look that there's a lot of families that you are feeding, and you start to look at the risk. And when you develop a new product, if something goes wrong, are we protected? It's not just us anymore. It's because in some cases, we have a husband and wife that work for us. It's their families that are on the line. So if we're not taking all our precautions and covering all of our bases, it affects much more than just us.
Right. Well.
And to answer your question earlier too, another thing that keeps me up is one of the things that we see is, in a lot of insurance cases, we are not talking to, like the underwriter. We're talking to an agent who is relaying information from multiple levels. And to your point earlier, where insurance companies buy insurance companies, it's just one more layer after one more layer.
Right.
And we're never really able to fully communicate with them.
Right.
So we're left with whatever our agent is telling us, which hopefully is our best interest, but.
So, that's one of the things unique about what we do. So agents and brokers, any agent or broker can come to us. The bigger ones don't like it. The smaller ones don't mind it. Insureds, I like to hear that because we demand a call with you. So if Bob Jones Agency called up and said, hey, Rick, I got, firearms manufacturer. We want you to quote it. I'm like, okay, get them on the phone. Because I don't trust the agents or brokers. Some of them are really good, but some of them aren't that good, right? And I wonder what they're saying too, right? Like, are you covered for flood, right? Oh yeah, you're covered for flood, and they don't know. They're not showing you and talking about, the real claims. The company doesn't like that you're, branching out into this new firearm. Anytime you're doing something new, underwriters have a chance of doing that through a middleman. It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I want to hear from you. Hey, why do you think you can do this? And why is this a good idea? And by both of us having that direct connection, we both get what we want. We're able to manage it better. And it takes the E&O and all the exposure away from the agent. And I tell them that. I'm like, you guys complain about your insured getting on the phone. They're like, you don't need to talk to my client. It's my client. I don't even know if I'm going to place them with you. I got 10 other quotes I might place them with. Why do you want to talk to them? Because I'm their partner, and I can't be their partner if I haven't talked to them.
And the other side of that is you may highlight something that, as a manufacturer, we've never thought of from a risk perspective.
Right.
That may make us completely rethink a new project.
Right.
Kind of like Philip just brought up with the lethal firearm or the non-lethal firearm.
Right.
When you get more perspectives and that communication going, if you're open to listening to it, you may say, hey, okay, maybe we need to change this before we launch this. Or
make them just for law enforcement. That's the answer. Don't
Yes.
sell it to people who were afraid of a gun and think you're putting them in a better position, because you could be putting them in a worse position.
Again, you take a civilian and you give them something that looks like a gun and you say, use this to defend yourself. You are going to escalate it way faster than it should, and it's not going to have the desired outcome. And the people that have an opinion on that need scenario training before they continue to make opinions on that, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And what you said about all your families. I got 300 employees. You got employees, and good business owners. That's how we think. It's not just you are feeding 23 other families, and again, your guns are going out to 17,000. That's you. that's your trademark. And now in the boat racing, I got in a little scuffle with one of the big boat guys, and his boat didn't. I said, I wouldn't want that to be my boat. That's your name. Do you want to do something about it? And he says, well, you're an asshole. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to pay for it. I've asked you if you could fix it. I'll pay for it. I just want to know if you can fix it or not, because I want to go win, and your name's on that boat. And, again, there's lots of different people who told me good things about him, lots of different people told me bad things about him. I listen, but I deal with people one-on-one, and, that's my experience, right? Because somebody else had a bad experience or somebody else had a good experience, you never know all the details. It's kind of like a claim, right? If you have a shooting claim or you have some type of a litigation claim, everyone is so unique, and there's minute turns and decisions that we make that we're the only ones who really know it. And that's why when people say, well, did you hear about that claim? I'm like, yeah, I did, but I don't know anything about it. And there's people making decisions that are going to greatly affect the outcome for many, many years, like Remington again. So team.
Yeah. You gave me a comfort level that this year we're looking to, take our learning program, and take it to other gun ranges,
Right.
and help spread and we can help more people by franchising and just partnering with other things. And that wouldn't be capable without proper coverage.
Right. Well, and I think it's good for the whole industry if, you get everybody thinking more, I don't know what you'd call it, tactically or situationally aware.
Uh-huh.
And that's just good for everybody that's a patriot and a gun lover, and
It's a challenge. When you say real life scenario safety and instruction, most people don't know what that means. And
Right.
it's more of the best way to explain it is that you watch a movie and I can now insert you into that movie at any role that I want, as the good person, the bad person, someone that is getting robbed, and you're in that coffee shop, and if it's not about you and you're just a patron, can you leave?
Right.
How good of a witness can you be? And so there's so much learning potential in one scenario for everyone involved. If you're a potential bad person, now you get to see what works and what doesn't work. And if you're the good person, you get to see the escalation of force, and you get to see, hey, listen, yeah, you're right, good job, Rick, but you're going to jail. It's like, good job, you used excessive force.
Right.
And each state is different, and people that own a firearm has tremendous responsibility, and they don't realize how much, if they're not covered,
Right.
how much they risk their livelihood, their family, everything they've ever worked for can be gone like that. So
Right.
it's that you don't know how you're going to react until you're put in that position. So play pretend as real as possible, and through attentive repetition, learn how to think faster and choose safety.
You got to be the fastest thinker on the planet because you
Above
train
average.
more than anybody.
Above average.